on France 24. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. Over the weekend, there were riots in a Paris working-class suburb of Trappes. Riots in a suburb where there's often incidents of alienation. Police station was targeted at one point. There were cars burned, arrests made, injuries. Sparking it all was a police check on a woman wearing the full-faced Islamic veil, which in this country since 2011 is illegal. With us to talk about it, Majid Messaoudan, City Councillor for the working-class Paris suburb of Saint-Denis. Also with us, Emmanuel Roux, Secretary General of the National Union of Police Commissioners, sociologist Marie-Cécile Neve, and France24.com's Tony Todd, who is just back from Trappes. We were talking in part one of our discussion about verifying the information, the competing narratives, how they're coming across. Well, one man who's been looking particularly at this problem is our very own James Creedon. Let's say hello to him now, and he's here with our Media Buzz segment. James, this issue of how you check who's saying what on this story has been quite a painstaking one.
Absolutely, and the media coverage has been quite diverse. If we take a look, first of all, François, at the Courrier International, they've taken an article from the British press by a Palestinian activist based in the UK. She says she's talking about the mistake of the Muslims of Trappes, right? And she is saying, her name is Ahlam Akram, that the laws apply to everybody in Europe, that the Muslim community tends to forget this, that the concept that these Arabic communities have of their rights leaves me perplexed. Countries that have given us the freedoms and the respect that you don't find in our Muslim countries. So a very, actually, what almost sounds like a right-wing point of view being expressed by a Palestinian activist, more or less saying that this is the fault of the communities at hand.
Majid, in your town of Saint-Denis, how do people feel about Saint-Denis, left-leaning? You yourself hail from the party of the left. What do you think of this? Do you have to respect the law no matter what it is?
Well, I must respect the law. I'm a city council member, so I respect it. But I can think that a law is not fair and that we must fight against it. And I think this one is a very dangerous one. And I encourage my friends and all the people that hear to us to fight it and to ask all the MPs to delete this law because it's very dangerous and it encourages racism and Islamophobia. So when a law is not fair, maybe you cannot obey.
Marie-Cécile Neve, do you agree?
What I would like to say about that is that the law is not against the burqa. The law is against people who hide their face. And you have other people who hide their face in the public sphere today. It's, for example, the Romen with the anti-feminist male movement. And nobody says nothing to them. They can demonstrate and interrupt a tennis match, and
so
it's all right for everybody.
For you, there's a double standard, James.
So it's a problem.
The other point of view is also being expressed in the media. This is an interview, François, in Le Monde by a researcher on religions and society by the name of Hicham Benaissa. Now, he says that we shouldn't make the mistake of reducing the violence that happened in Trappes to their religious characteristics. The timing of this is important. There's a sense in the Muslim communities of rising Islamophobia, and that the authorities aren't doing enough to tackle that the reactions are very late. And a couple of examples of that across the media. Our own France 24 Observer's website here in the French edition spoke to somebody in Trappes who says the violence is a result of the reaction to rising Islamophobia. Two examples of that. This is an article on the Boursorama website. Just 3 days before the violence in Trappes, there was a woman who was attacked or who was threatened with a knife by two drunken men because she was wearing the full veil. Those two men were subsequently sentenced to 2 months in prison. So there is a context to all of this. In Argenteuil, in the northwest of Paris, a suburb in the northwest, there were 2 attacks on full-veiled women in May and early June. One of those women actually miscarried her child as a result of that attack. And it was over a month later that the Interior Minister, Manuel Valls, actually met with these women and representatives of that community. And those in Argenteuil say that was too late. It was too little too late, in fact. And that other incidents of, racism perhaps get greater attention. Now, just to finish, another aspect in the media and on social media that's quite interesting is this blog for Le Monde, which fact checks elements on social media. Now, you had images circulating on social media of incidents that supposedly took place in Trappes. That was actually the southern French city of Lyon in, I think it was 2011, right? So completely unrelated incident. Here you have hashtag Trappes with photo montage, with a kind of montage of different images saying that it's in Guyancourt, in Elancourt, in other suburbs around Paris. In other words, that this had sort of completely caught fire, so to speak. Not true. And also a bike there that's burning, that actually was taken from this website in Alsace. So lots of examples of images that were not from Trappes that were picked up by social media. And in this case, the French private network TF1 put a photo from 2005 from the rioting in Paris on the website. So it shows the way in which this incidents like this can be politicized very quickly and manipulated.
All right, well, thanks for that, James Creedon, and that's certainly topical to what we were saying a short while ago. The mention there made of Argenteuil, which is a town that you know well, Emmanuel.
Yes, I worked there a few years. It was very interesting. And usually cliches are very dangerous.
Argenteuil, which is also in the western suburbs, also a working class suburb.
Northwestern, very interesting city. The second city in the French suburb, in the Parisian suburb, after Boulogne-Billancourt. Very, very unknown. I'm very afraid about lies and cliches, you know. On that Copwatch site that everybody's speaking about, there is a sentence of a policeman. I don't like what has been written, but one has to be precise. One of the policemen says, let's support bleu marine, marine blue, with a small m, which is a reference.
An allusion to the leader of the National Front.
No, which is a reference of the blue suits we wear. And Copwatch, let me just add.
You can't say that.
Copwatch.
You can't say that, seriously.
Copwatch.
The leader of the far right is called Marine Le Pen.
Copwatch is writing it with a capital M.
Right.
So I think there is a way of presenting things which is very, very unfair. About the law of the veil, what we wrote and said in media, and we wrote it, my union, is that the problem is that there is a social question, I wouldn't say problem, but question about the veil, and the law sends the resolution of that question in the hands of the basic police officers. And all the people who should be working on that, speaking about that, like in the parliaments, for example, or psychologists or sociologists, should be working on that. But no, we just pass. No, like on rugby, when you send the balloon to the ball to the end of the player.
It's a political hot potato, and it's
it's a hot potato.
And I think that
which is very unfair to police officers. And I think it's not our job or their job. Our job to deal with that.
Do you think we can solve religious behaviors with a law? Do you really think we can succeed, can manage?
I just say that there
As
is
a
a
policeman,
law.
you should
We are Republican,
wonder.
and we enforce the law and we apply them. What would you say
Even if it's unfair?
if the police
Even if
could-
it's unfair?
If the police could say, "Well, that law we don't like, we won't implement
But
it."
what do you do in your unions to fight against this law? Do you think it's a good one?
We are not here
That's the
to
point.
discuss
You're not
about
doing
the
anything
law.
to fight against this law.
I'm not sure that 900 MPs were wrong when they discussed the law.
Oh,
It comes from
so
the parliament.
An MP is always a good man, or it never fails.
That's what we call democracy.
No,
we trust
no.
them.
You can be a Democrat and you can be wrong. You know.
And from
That's
what
democracy.
From what I understand, your police unions did warn the Sarkozy government when putting the law together
Yes.
that it would be very complicated and contentious to carry it out. And that's what police officers that I spoke to today said, was that, in fact, and a representative from one of the unions, that it's a complicated law and it's a difficult, a challenging law to
Implement.
To implement.
Impossible to implement.
But because they're police officers and it's their job, they absolutely have to do it.
And how did the citizens of Trappes feel about this law?
Well, I spent a long time there today with my colleague Charlotte, and we spoke to a number of people. And the surprising reaction for me was from Muslim women who said that if wearing a veil is against the law, then you shouldn't wear a veil. It's as simple as that. And that breaking the law was counterproductive. It doesn't help much. And we have to put this in context, François. There are only a few hundred, if that, women in France who actually do wear a veil. So
Some 2,000 according to the previous interior minister.
Well, the number I heard today was 300.
So there are various numbers
up
being bandied around.
to 6 or 7 billion Muslim in France, I think we can say that it's nothing, you know.
All right.
So
And by the way, just so people know, the math can be a little bit fuzzy, and we got asked this question on Facebook today, because the fact is that in France, racial profiling, religious profiling is against the law. So we know that there's probably somewhere between 5 and 6 million Muslims in France.
It depends on the religion. It's not the same for other,
can be Arab, but
other,
not Muslim.
Yeah, other kinds of religion. It's not the same. You can see it in demonstrations against gay marriage.
yeah.
And the
Okay,
law
so-
is not so hard because there are 3 levels of penalties in France: crime, délit, et contravention. Major crimes, and small
Crimes, misdemeanors, and what common, I don't know what summons is.
Yes, thank you. And the law said that when you wear that full face veil, it is the lowest incrimination possible. It's. I'm sorry for the comparison, but it's the same amount of a parking ticket. What is the main goal of the law was to work on the people forcing their women even to wear the full face veil. And this in the law is a specific article saying, well, this is not a crime, but this is a middle class crime.
Emmanuel Abou on Facebook saying 2,000 out of 5 million Muslims. Why do you need a law for such a small number? This is nothing but overuse of bureaucracy. The French are playing up to stereotypes here, it seems.
It's not supposed to be a law against Muslims, but in fact it is. It is a law against people who mask, who hide their faces, and only Muslim women are arrested. So it's a problem. You see, it's compulsory that people feel it's an anti-Muslim law, while it's not supposed to be.
All right.
To go in the same way, I think that you're talking about people that force their woman to wear this kind of veil. Maybe it exists, but I think that if someone wants to force his woman to wear it, he will do it despite the law. So I think the solution is social working in these zones.
On that point, Majid,
I don't understand it.
I want to ask you a question on that point. In this particular case, it was a convert to Islam. It was, and it seems as though there have been several instances where it's converts to Islam. Why is that?
Why do they convert to Islam?
No, why is it that they're the ones who seem to be in the fore when it comes to wearing the full-faced veil, which is, again, as we said, a very small minority of Muslims?
I can't explain why they go so far, but I'm convinced that the more you will show them as the more fundamentalist Muslim, the most they will stay in this position. I think the solution is not to stigmatize them, is not to show them daily on TV shows and saying that they are against the law. They feel French. I think they are French, but they want to live their religion as they want. And who are we to judge them and to make laws to prevent them from wearing what they want to wear? When we see miniskirts in the street, we don't feel shame on. We don't judge women. Everybody can wear the way they want. And I think that MPs have other priorities in France than judging if a woman can wear a veil or not.
Well, Nicolas Sarkozy certainly had priorities in 2010 when that law was put through Parliament. He was losing votes to the voters to the far right, and many people argue that the law was a knee-jerk reaction to that. So
it was.
And by the way, you mentioned that it was Nicolas Sarkozy, he was a conservative, but in this case, and I want to point it out to people who are just joining us here, that we are talking about a socialist government. The socialist interior minister who said that There is only one law in our country, the law of the Republic. Here's what he said Monday after touring that city of Top.
We cannot confuse the huge majority of our Muslim citizens during this month of Ramadan or at any other time with an active, dangerous minority that wants to impose a different law from the law of the Republic. There is no other law that has prevalence in the Republic, not the law of hoodlums, the law of drug networks, and certainly not any fundamentalist religious movement.
Majid, what's your reaction to that statement?
My reaction is very simple. When I heard Manuel Valls and Benoît Hamon talking these days, because he's an MP of the Yvelines district.
Of that area, and he's a government minister.
Exactly. I closed my eyes, and after hearing them, I said to myself that Nicolas Sarkozy could have said that. The words that said Manuel Valls could have been the words that used Nicolas Sarkozy before. He didn't have a word for the population to support them and to face the reality and the fact that this government has failed 1 year after all the promises they made to these people. And the majority of these people have voted for François Hollande against Nicolas Sarkozy. And today, they face the same problems, and the law they wanted the socialist government to delete is still available and reinforced by Manuel Valls. So it's amazing.
Marie-Cécile, are you equally disappointed by what the Interior Minister said?
He's in his role. I mean, what else can
Is
he
that
say?
being in his role?
Yeah, surely, probably.
Protecting the police.
Because it sounds a little bit like there's a dog whistle message there, that there are good Muslims and bad Muslims.
What else can he say?
All right. We have one comment on Twitter here. Leave Muslims alone. You make laws against our religion, and then you're surprised that controls screw up. By the way, we're talking about Trappes, the city, which is, again, near the castle of Versailles. Well, it's not all doom and gloom over there. Its native sons include footballing star Nicolas Anelka, who you may have remembered from Chelsea, and popular award-winning French actor Omar Sy. One of his drama and improv coaches in Trappes, Alain Dugois, recently wrote a book about the town, where he stated the following, which was that Trappes is a powder keg where no common cultural ground has been built between communities. And the press is wondering if Trappes hasn't perhaps exposed how the current government is just as short on ideas on how to fix the banlieues, those working-class suburbs, as the right wing did beforehand. In a Monday editorial, daily Libération writes, you only need to observe the scant attention given to the banlieue during the 2012 presidential election to gauge the political uneasiness. Tony, Todd, it's true that it was an issue that was very much under the radar during the whole presidential election campaign.
And it should have been on the radar because it's a very significant social problem that France is suffering from. We have a situation in cities across France that's the same, that you have a city centre that is wealthy, well-to-do, predominantly white, and you have immigrant populations that have been lumped in these suburbs around town that don't have fantastic infrastructural access, where there aren't great schools, where there aren't universities, where people can't mix together. So they've effectively been ghettoized, and that's causing France a major problem. And the fact that it hasn't been addressed is something to worry about.
So as we were mentioning, and you were saying, we were mentioning in part one of our discussion about how there has been money spent on the city of Trappes. Some there even complain that there's gentrification and that it's increasing their alienation and forcing them out of the neighborhoods where they've grown up as a result of the fact that they've torn down some of these big tower blocks where people used to live, these big projects. Has the money been spent properly when you see policing these neighborhoods? That has there been any positive impact, it seems, on all the money that's been spent on these working class suburbs?
Well, I'm not here to have an opinion on
I understand. You're a
question
policeman, not
because-
an urban planner.
Yeah, but we observe things and we live in these cities also. What I would like to say is, I think the highest mark of respect towards the population from the 84,000 police officers working in cities and mostly in urban areas is to work there once again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working, trying to get a solution for noise. People, mostly want to sleep at night, for road traffic, drugs, burglaries, and the police is fighting all that. I'm not sure that there is the highest mark of respect when people burn gymnasium, when people burn post office, when people burn their own neighbor's car. I wonder where the respect is, in fact. I think the respect is mostly in the police hands.
Majid?
Well, I'm not going to repeat what I said about respect, but I see it in Saint-Denis, and I noticed two things. Police officers do not always respect citizens. This is a fact. And we can show you videos about Clichy-sous-Bois where you can hear and see policemen talking about the youth, and you will see that respect is not always on police hands. This is the first point. The second point is that I agree on one thing. You have difficult work conditions, but this is not this population fault. You must ask money to your interior minister. And the problem in Saint-Denis, for example, we have a lack of policemen. And when we need them, they can't come. Sometimes when I see a rodeo in my street, I call. You know what they
A rodeo
answer me?
being when kids take
on motorbikes.
Yeah.
They're crossing the street on motorbike without helmets and etc. I call the police office and they answer me, we don't have any cars available. Do you think this is respect for us? Do you think this is respect for us? We deserve the same security condition as in Paris, but we don't have it. And you were talking about the fact that this is there's a big difference about the way we are treated in the suburbs and the way people are treated in Paris.
Majid, in Saint-Denis, which is also a working class suburb, not the same part of town, it's north of Paris.
North of Paris, yeah.
Also, perhaps not as much of an enclave, right? You've got direct access to the capital via the subway system, so you're a lot closer than in Trappes, where you really is far from everything at night.
Yeah.
Over there, has the money been well spent in
Well-
terms of getting out of this ghetto mentality?
Well, I think that in Saint-Denis the money has been quite well spent, but because of the political willingness, we did not want these projects and this money to make people go out of Saint-Denis. I don't know if you understand me.
Yeah, I do. What
We
you
are
said is
fighting about
you tried not to have
gentrification.
gentrification.
Yes, we don't want the people of Saint-Denis to leave from the city because we think that they deserve to stay in the city that is developing itself. And it's not the case in all the cities. Cities around Saint-Denis are growing up, and the mayors are not doing anything to control the level of the housing. Yeah. So I think the money is quite well spent, but we need more to face the problems we have: unemployment, housing, education, cultural issues. And I think that
Tony,
equality is not here.
In Trappes, there are neighborhoods that really have been spruced up, and
Well, looking around
they
today,
I think it even won. I read today that it won an award for best floral arrangement in France back in 2011.
well, it was much leafier subject than area, a much leafier area than I expected it to be. And I saw a lot of building work that's ongoing, and this isn't all cosmetic building work. That they are buildings have been torn down and they're being rebuilt, and it looks pretty good. But it's a small step, and as the weekend's events demonstrated, it hasn't yet solved anything.
Hasn't yet solved anything.
Many surveys shows that without money, it would probably have been worse. And we cannot know what would have happened if there had been much more money, but without money, it would be
All right, so
devastation.
our panel in agreement that there needs to be attention given to the working class suburbs of France, the
Respect.
banlieue. Majid Messaouden, I want to thank you. I want to thank Marie-Cécile Neve. I want to thank as well Tony, Todd, and Emmanuel Roux for being with us. Thank you for joining us here for the France 24 debate.